Hello and welcome to TC meeting for IOJS on Tuesday the 13th of January 2015. We're actually here to celebrate Fedor's birthday, but he's decided not to join us. So instead we're going to release IOJS 1.0.0. We don't have a big group. We've got Ben, Bert, Chris and Trevor and myself here. So we're just going to run through some 1.0.0 things rather than get bogged down in larger issues. And we'll discuss them just to check them off, but we might have to punt them to next meeting. Just a quick recap. Oh, hang on. We're going to do a mini stand-up. Does anyone want to do a stand-up and tell us what you've been doing? Ben, perhaps first?
Okay, I've been making sure that we can actually do a 1.0 release today. So yeah, fixing bugs, making sure everything works. That's basically it. Bert?
Well, in the past week, I suppose, right? Yeah, mostly working on fixing also issues and working towards a release. I did some optimization in HTTP parser. I added some, but it's not been released yet. But in IOJ or in libuv, I made try write word for sockets on Windows. Yeah, and other than that, it's just landing a lot of patches that we want to get into the release. Next one, that would be, I guess, Chris.
Most recently worked on doc style, working on moving docs into its own repo and working group. And I am blanking on what I did earlier in the week, so moving on to the next person. Trevor?
I don't know, stuff. As far as join node goes, I'm just trying to help 12 get out the door so I can just wash my hands of it and be happy that 12 is out the door. And for IO, just looking at things people send me.
Okay, and me, I've been doing 1.0.0 stuff obsessively, so I've got build and release mechanisms working mostly. So from my end, I'm pretty confident that we have a process that works with just a few button clicks to make a release happen. Okay, quick review of the last meeting. We invited Colin to the TC number, the issue number 223. So Colin was accepted on TC. Couldn't be here with us today. File copyright policy, that was a repeat issue, and it's coming back here again. Number 216. We covered lots of pseudo legal stuff in that. Doc, clarify and split up contribution docs. I landed that after a couple of reviews. We didn't really change much of the governance thing, so it's more about adding the concept of collaborators. And so there's 2 new docs in the root of the project now. Add new collaborators, issue number 234. We punted that to this meeting after getting people wanted to have a think about how that should happen. Upgrade V8. We agreed to upgrade V8 to 3.31. That was issue number 2.43. And then there was a discussion about build and release and the INTL object as well. That doesn't have an issue number, but the details are in the last minutes. So unless anyone's got anything to raise about last meeting, we might move on and look at file copyright policy. The reason that's back here is for the release. There is a issue number 294, which is a pull request from me. With a proposal to change the top-level license file. Now, the reason for doing this is because this is used. The top-level license file is used for release installers. So we want it to say IOJS somewhere prominently. At the moment, it says Node prominently. Goes on about joint. So I wanted to get sign-off from others that this was acceptable. So what we've done in this is move the joint block down and add a new block for IOJS, just with MIT again. And then there's a little bit of text saying that the following license, the original Node license, applies to parts of, what does it say? This license applies to parts of the IOJ or parts of IOJS originating from the joint Node repository. I made all this language up. I just wanted to get something done. I haven't had feedback from anybody about this, except for I think Ben chimed in, but that was about the commit. So, anyone have any comments?
I don't really. It looks reasonable. The usual. I'm not a lawyer. Thing applies.
Yeah. Me neither, which is why I wanted broader consensus. I was hoping for Michael and Isaac to be on this because they're the ones that have strong legal opinions and would probably just sign off on something or tell us what they reckon needed to be done. So how about we go ahead and merge this and amend if we receive advice that this is
Not good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus
Yeah,
one
that's-
LETM.
Yeah,
Plus
I
one.
agree.
Okay, I'll minute this later. Okay, governance, add new collaborators number 234. This we were supposed to come back to this meeting with a suggestion of how to move forward. I know Isaac at least has said that he'd be happy to go ahead with whatever this meeting decided. However, we're missing Colin Fedor as well from TC. I'm just wondering if you guys want to do this. I mean, you can make a decision if you want, or do you want to punt this to next meeting again?
Personally, I'm fine with it, but I'm also perfectly happy with punting on it.
Yeah, I think since we're now super, I don't know, I haven't thought about it much. It's all been about the release, so I prefer to actually punt on it until next week, if that's okay with everybody else.
I'm okay with this.
Okay. But you will come with opinions next time.
Yes,
You
I will
will.
have an opinion. I
Um,
already do, actually. Like, I've been, if I think about it a little bit, I don't mind giving these people commit bits, but I think it would be good to reach out to them, like ask if they're actually interested, because I think that list was just made up now, and I don't know if people actually care. So.
Yeah, so Michael made a good point, which is that the new GitHub mechanism for orgs is when you get added to an org, it's actually an invite now, so you don't have to accept it. So we can add them, and they don't have to accept if they don't want.
Okay, yeah.
So that's quite nice.
Well, I mean, but it's also I would also like there's people in there that I don't know. It would be nice if they would at least say, well, yes, interesting, or okay,
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
work with you guys, instead of just clicking yes and then forgetting about it.
Yeah, fair enough. I think the impression I've left there is that we would probably get back to them, and they might be watching this or looking at minutes, so they're probably waiting for action on this end. So
I think Bert just volunteered to reach out to them personally.
I think I would probably do that, but like not now.
Okay, next meeting we'll do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next issue was issue number 251, which was State of Year 6. It actually turned into a V8 upgrade policy discussion because there was talk about 3.31 potentially not being stable enough, and then we got back into the Google policy and how they deal with stability. The 3.31 is considered unstable, and they're actually going to pull out the classes feature from that because of ES6 spec concerns. And the recommendation was to use 3.30. That was from like Dominic gave us that recommendation based on the feedback from Google. So the reason that's in TC agenda is to discuss whether we have a policy on this. We've still got 3.31 in the code base, and I don't believe there's any reason not to ship with 3.31 that anybody's raised. But do we want to discuss the V8 versioning policy here? Now?
So, I mean, I've been following the discussion, and I don't actually have a strong opinion. I mean, we are doing Samware, so whatever we cannot break the API in the 1.0 series, or in the 1 series.
Yeah. So the example that I used in that was that if we did go live with classes with our 1.00, and then we upgraded V8 to the next version, whether it's 4 or whatever the version is, I can't keep track of Google versions, and then classes were removed, then that would be a breaking change and probably necessitate us having to release a 2.0.0 very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And whether that's desirable or not as a potentially frequent behavior.
Yeah, that's not really releasing 2.0.0 too soon is also not really desirable. But wait, what I don't understand, we disabled, like Ben disabled.
Yeah, so we disabled classes because we got feedback on this specific one. So that's just now an example. But what if there's something else in there between now and when that code lands in Chrome that they decide to turn something else off? So we just happen to get a heads up. We're not always going to get a heads up. So I wonder whether we should punt this discussion again until we've got code out there. I'm pretty sure no one wants to downgrade V8 to 3.30 at this stage. And so after a release, maybe we can discuss formal policy about this.
Yeah, so I think in general I'm in favor of only using stable V8 versions, but for now, I mean, it seems very impractical to downgrade right now, and I don't know, I'm willing to take the risk that V8 is not going to turn off any more features before Chrome ships. So, let's leave it this way. And yes, a policy to not use unstable V8 version seems totally reasonable. But we can also punt on this. I don't hear any other opinions. Ben, what do you think?
Well, people in the IFC channel comment that, for example, Dominic says that if you stick to stable V8 versions, you will never experience breakage on the JavaScript layer, because that would break the web, and of course Chrome does not want to break the web, which sounds reasonable. We would still have to deal with C++ API breakage. So I'm not sure if there's really any way to win. Now, if you're asking for an opinion, I don't really have one yet. For now, I would suggest that we just stick with 3.31. I mean, doing a big revert just before we're going to do release sounds like trouble. So,
yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's not going to happen. And whether there's much desire for it, because one of the things we're up against here is that we all just want to get this out with a modern version of V8, and we've got 3.31, and it's hard to think about downgrading to 3.30 and losing all those features and the good things.
Yeah.
Okay, let's punt this discussion till we've got code out there and can think about it more clearly. Which moves us on to. Is everyone agreed that that's a good approach?
Yep.
Another yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so the issue number 302 is a release checklist for 1.0.0 that we need to quickly walk through to see if there's anything that we can knock off or remove. So just quickly going down the file copyright policy, we have sort of dealt with. I will open that up and I'll check that off when I'll merge that straight off this meeting, and that's done. We'll get to the Windows things in a minute, but the 0.10 merge stuff. Do you want to give us a summary of where that's up to and what we're doing with that?
Well, we don't have to land it, or we don't have to do that before the release. It's just making the merge is super complicated. So I try to find categories and evaluate all the patches. And it seems that I've landed most of the things that we actually want to have as such, or actually everything has been landed. There's some discussion about some TLS patches, but they don't apply. So that makes it a little bit different. And they are also not completely appropriate because, for example, one of the TLS patches that Fedora said we should include says like, well, blah, 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 Node supports SSL v2 and 3 by default, etc. But we actually don't. Like, we decided not to do that. So those are just not applicable. Let's see. And then there's a couple of things that we want to do, but not in the way Node 0.10 did it. So like timers, for example, right now, like it would be very good to fix this before we release. Timers are super slow in IO.js, and that's a problem if you use the HTTP server. What you will notice is if you benchmark it, it's slower than we're used to, so maybe 25% slower. And also CPU utilization is much higher, so usually when you run benchmarks, CPU utilization, your CPU is not entirely used by Node or IO.js because there's syscalls involved and time is spent in the kernel. But like if in the current state, actually most of the time is spent in JavaScript walking that timers list, and so we have to find a fix for that. But the way Node fixes, I am really not so happy with it. And there's much simpler ways to do that. There's a separate issue about that.
Okay, so we have this. I thought it was the other way around, that there was something in V10 that was going to slow us down, but we actually have the slowness now that you're talking about, the fix.
Yes, we don't have the fix.
Okay.
So that's maybe something that we actually should be doing. So looking at that PR, probably not needed. Oh, there's child process fixes. That's mostly adding tests. They didn't apply either. It's not super important, I think. And there's one patch which says private buffer object in lib files. That's a nice to have, but we also don't really strictly need it. And besides, we can do it after a 0.1 release or a 1.0 release. So no, it's going through the list. There's nothing that blocks the release right now.
Okay. Is there anything in there that's going to be a breaking change?
No.
So it's all. I guess if it was in 0.10, it wouldn't be breaking. So it's all just little minor fixes. And if we were to do a change log that told people about the things that are missing that they used to in 0.10, is there anything that stands out there that is obvious from a user-facing perspective?
Well, abort on uncaught. Oh, sorry. Abort on uncaught exception plus domains. There was a fix for that on the V10 branch, so people that are using domains and postmortem debugging might be surprised by that, potentially. So it works on Node v10 and would not work on IOJS 1. Not sure if that's a huge deal because it's 1. So.
Yes, and so of course SSL v2 and 3 are disabled. That private buffer object patch, it makes it so that if you reassign the buffer object in the console or in the repo, it doesn't actually crash Node. I think people should maybe not do that, but I'm willing to land a fix for it. Other than
they're
that,
mainly just minor fixes.
Yeah. Abort on uncaught, I don't know why. I don't even know why people do that. Like that's a V8 flag for debugging. It's sort of weird to break that behavior with domains.
So, as I understand it, I think we use at least at Walmart Labs we used domains in Happy, and we still wanted the postmortem debugging so that like if something did manage to like slip out from those cracks, or if we crashed after the domain caught it, we'd be able to do some postmortem debugging. I CC'd Wyatt Rule on that issue to see to elucidate on the reasons for it. So I haven't heard back from him though.
Okay, if we do, we can maybe do a fix, but it would definitely not be something where we change V8 unless we have to. I mean, that's the issue. Like what happened in Node.js is a patch with extra features got floated onto V8, but that's we don't do that unless there's like a really, really pressing need, but I don't think that's the case here. So that's why we can't take that patch.
Cool.
Okay.
Apropos the timers issue, I would like to recommend that we don't take the patches from VO10, but I'm willing to volunteer some time next week to just fix the issue for good in IOJS. I think that it's Bert that needs to comment on this.
Well, you're welcome, but so we're not going to fix it before we release 1.0?
Do you really want to? I mean, I know it's slower now, but those fixes in VO10, they make the common case slightly better, but they make the worst case much, much worse. So I don't think it's an all-around win.
Okay, well, so, I mean, I think it would be good to fix it. But indeed, we won't take those patches, but it's really not so hard to fix it. Basically, what we have to do is, so Timers has this sort of semi-internal API, which is called timer.active, and it maintains this linked list. And basically, we have to create a completely different linked list for timers that don't keep the event loop open. So in a way, you could just, copy paste that block of code from timers.js, give it a different name, and add timer.unref, and it would be, you'd be all set.
Oh yeah, that's a separate issue. But indeed, unref timers could be optimized, but can be optimized better than VO10 does it currently. Now, the one thing I'm thinking about is _unref active, which is used in net and HTTP. That's the by far most expensive one.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we're talking about the same thing here. Like,
okay.
You know why unref active exists is because in HTTP you can have a, or in net you can have a timeout on a socket, and the issue that I think TJ tried to fix is that if you unref the socket, the timer that's responsible for the timers for the timeout does not get unrefed. And so what he did is he created one extra special timer for all unrefed sockets. That's not how you should do it. You should just make a separate list, make timeout timers always unrefed, because that's just safe to do, and do everything the same as we used to before, but have so basically replicate the active API for for timeout timers.
Well, the biggest issue right now is that a lot of operations are ON instead of O1 or O log N. If you fix that, then most, if not all, of the performance problems will simply go away. And I posted on that issue you opened. I would suggest to just use a timer wheel.
Well, yes. I mean, you know what? Why don't you do that next week? And we will do a very simple fix now. Like the very simple fix is Control-C, Control-V, and add like .unref somewhere and rename active to unref active. I mean, that's all we have to do basically.
Are we getting too much into details? Like, should this all be an issue? So, I mean, it boils down to we're not taking the 10 patch, right?
No, we're not taking the 10. The question is, are we going to do it before the release?
Yeah, that's the important thing. Do we want to get this out before 1.0.0? If there's no.
Yeah, I don't think it's a blocker, so we should just do the release tonight, and next week we'll do another release, and that one will have a fix.
I anticipate we'll have a 1.0.1 pretty quickly afterwards because people are going to file all sorts of bug reports for things that we did get wrong. Which
we're calling this an alpha, right? So that should be okay. Yeah.
We are, but I'm pretty sure that message is not getting very far out beyond this group. Yeah. But for those who are watching this, there's 59 viewers, it says here, and anyone afterwards, the TC considers 1.0.0 an alpha or even a beta release, so it's not, it's not meant to be production quality. We just want to get code out there for people to start testing, and then we'll iterate on that and use Semver to improve. Okay, so probably not landing in 1.0.0, probably in 1.0.1. Okay, good. Back to the checklist. What have we got? But do we want to talk about Windows stuff? So there's three things. There's the node.exe, there's the node.js headers and node.js lib. No, that was it. That was the two things, I think.
Yes, so the node.exe, I made something, but the weird thing is that well, there are two issues. First of all, I need to export the entry point from iojs.exe. Well, that works now. But there is something with iojs that makes it crash if I start it the way I do. And I have no clue what's going on right now. The alternative would be, so like suppose I can't get this done in like another half hour. The alternative would be to add a symlink. But adding symlinks is a bit annoying because the Wix, the setup system, doesn't support treating symlinks, so that means that we have to create some sort of shell script, put it in there, make sure it runs. I don't know how to do that yet. And the other thing is that making symlinks only works for admins, and I don't know, I think the installer might actually right now not work if you are not an admin. But that's something I sort of always intended to fix. But that basically like shuts the door. We can never support systems where the user that wants to use Node isn't an admin anymore. That's kind of a pain. What we might do, so maybe the way to go forward is to actually try to make the symlink for this release, and then maybe switch over to node.exe if I can manage to solve these crashes.
So we don't have to release like within the next half hour. I anticipated that there was a little bit of work to do to get this ready. So if you want more time to shave this yak, then you can try.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think that's your call. If you can't get there, or you're just feeling uncomfortable about the approach, and you're more comfortable with making a symlink, then just do that. That's totally your call. And let us know in the issue what you're going to do for this release, and then the plan.
I'd like to get some input on what other people think is sort of the right way to do it. So what I was planning to do is make node.exe basically a very small stub exe, which sort of dynamically loads IO.js and then invokes its entry point. It's a real entry point, not the function main is not really the entry point. And the reason for that is that in Windows you don't have an exact syscall, so I can't. So I would actually have to create a child process if I wanted to defer to IO.js. But the problem is that all processes, they are going to see the PID, the process ID from the stub and not from the IO.js exe, and I think that will break at least some stuff. So I don't know what. I mean, does my idea sound reasonable in the first place, or is that, or not at all?
It sounds reasonable to me. So I've only deployed one production application on Windows, and I don't have great connections with people who are doing large-scale or even anything significant deploying on Windows. So that's the problem. I don't think any of us are doing that or have good connections unless you do, Bert, because that's who matters here.
I don't have them anymore. So whatever.
The best approach is probably just going to be to get something out there and get feedback on it from people who are using it.
Yeah. Okay.
If stuff starts breaking, then we know we've taken the wrong approach.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try to fix this exe. If it doesn't work, I'll make the symlink. Basically, what I just described. So that's all. And then there's adding the headers to the MSI and the node.lib file. Yeah, that would be nice for node.js. I think node.js needs. Right now, of course, it downloads tarballs from the website.
So it downloads tarballs for all of the platforms, even though everything but Windows has headers installed when you install Node, which is
so it's probably not a release blocker, but it's something that it would be really nice to do that better.
So it currently it is downloading from it will download from the IO.js site.
Mm-hmm.
Has that been fixed?
I don't know. Is it fixed? Who maintains that?
Nobody. That's the thing. Nate has not in this loop, and I don't think anyone's connected with him. So node.js is going to be a problem here for all platforms, and none of us have taken it upon ourselves to address that.
It's probably not that hard to fix node.js. It's basically updating URL in node.js, and then making sure the npm that we ship contains that modified version of node.js.
Does somebody else on this group want to take the responsibility for doing a quick pull request to node.js and perhaps shipping a patched version of it?
I can do a patch if you want, if no one else is volunteering. Volunteers, hello?
Yeah, you are the volunteer.
We have a volunteer. Yeah. Yes, Ben. All right.
So our download target should be the same as node.js.org with the dist directory and the version names for the source tarball anyway.
So it's just iojs.org instead of node.js.org.
Pretty much, yep. And the file name is iojs rather than node.
Oh, yes, of course, yeah.
Is there currently any way to detect that you're running iojs and not node?
Except for the version.
You can look at the version number.
Okay, but that's pretty brittle if Node one day decides to ship 1.0.
Yeah, but who here truly believes that's ever going to happen?
Should we add? Okay.
But there is a discussion. There's a GitHub issue. I don't know which one it is that has this discussion in it. I think it's the one that was started by Rebecca Turner from NPM about detecting whether you're an IOJS or not. And a couple of people are pretty vocal about this. But in particular, Isaac doesn't want to add any mechanism for doing this, and the version should be enough. And I think there's a train of thought that says that you should just use feature detection to detect feature differences, all that sort of stuff.
Well, okay, real quick, and process.versions, I just feel like that's blatantly wrong if it just says node and then the version.
Trevor is robotized.
No, I'm sorry. Like, if I do process.versions.node in IOJS, that just feels wrong, fundamentally.
So
Yeah.
Isaac's response to that was, if we added an IOJS property, is there any situation where the process versions IOJS does not equal process versions.node? That's his comeback to that. I'm not sure how solid that is, but
I don't
he's
give a
right.
crap.
But does it matter? Yeah.
It's still fundamentally wrong, right? Like, it's still fundamentally wrong to give ourselves a version of Node, unless we're saying, okay, so first off, it's fundamentally wrong to give ourselves a version of Node in process.versions because the one release won't be technically compatible with any version of Node.
Yeah, I think this is also an interesting discussion. I think it would actually be good to make it too. Well, I mean, I was asking this because the patch that Ben just volunteered to do, it will have to detect, is Node.js being run by Node or by IOJS? Like, which website am I going to use? It must be possible to detect either.
Yeah, Chris already posted something in the chat. Process.exit path. If that ends in IOJS, you know you're running IOJS.
No, well, like not if you use a node.exe shim like on that funny platform of mine, it will always be Node if you started it by Node by typing Node, no matter what
you're
you
a
do.
programmer. You just make it work. I expect it on my desk by 4.
I can't really make that work.
For the purpose of this, there's not many cases where a particular version of Node.js has to be forward compatible because Node.js is always updated when both Node and IOJS release. So I'm not sure planning for the future is that relevant for Node.js. The discussion about how to expose whether you're running on IOJS versus Node is, I think, a little bit adjacent to that. Worth having, of course, but for the purpose of Node.js, I think that you can just use the version number. If greater than equal to 1, then you're on IOJS. Whether Nate will see it that way and accept a pull request is another matter.
Yeah, I think it's weird. Maybe process.features.iojs. Maybe that works. Like you can just detect. No, it gives you some minimal way to.
I'd be in favor of adding an IOJS version to the process versions and then just doing like utils deprecate on a getter on Node. So that
I think. Yes, I think I agree with you. Process.versions.iojs. I wouldn't put any deprecated getter yet on there. Maybe later, but do something minimal for now.
Are you guys following the IRC chat?
Yeah, and I disagree with Dominic. I promise, Dominic, if they add IOJS, Node will not add process.versions.iojs as well. Like, the whole point is the fact that, like, IOJS is going to have a whole bunch of ES6 features, and 0.12 won't, so it'd be dumb to make them look like each other because that'll just confuse people's code.
Yeah, but the expectation is going to be just like any other major release upgrade for Node, that people are still going to have to write code that's backward compatible for people who are running Node 0.10 and even 0.11. So I wouldn't expect a flourish of libraries being published to NPM that are just full of ES6 features because you're just drawing yourself out of an audience for your library.
Well, I mean, but that's. I
think you estimate.
Now, but, yeah.
Personally, I think you underestimate the desire people have to use ES6 features.
Yeah, perhaps. I don't think we don't need Node to ship with an IOJS property. People would simply just detect its existence. If it exists, then I do my stuff. If it doesn't exist, then whatever. But yeah, regarding deprecation of Node, process versions of Node, I think that would be a strange one. So let's not do that, hey?
Okay, so let me propose a resolution. We add process.versions.io.js and it's 1.1.1.0.0.
Yeah, but like it's already pointed out in the IC channel that for compatibility, it's not unlikely that JoinNode will do the same thing. And really, I don't think it's all that necessary. You can just do feature detection on, for example.
No. Do feature detection. We're back in freaking browsers when I was doing feature detection between like IE6 and Firefox.
But Trevor,
like
you're actually proposing UA sniffing rather than feature detection. And in browser land, it's generally agreed that feature detection is better than user agent sniffing.
No, we shouldn't have to do.
I think actually it's no longer. I think it's actually not even considered a good practice nowadays. But
to do anything, well, there you go. Well, so you shouldn't have to. So why are we having this discussion at all?
Like we have this discussion like primarily because I think there should be a way, for people to, if they really want to know whether they're running Node or IO.js, and something that is not extremely brittle, like exact.
I think this is a rather contentious issue, so I would propose that that someone opens an issue and that we take the discussion to the issue tracker.
This is important for a 1.0.0 release, or are we going to punt on this till later and just do the version number for Node.js for now? Because we can just do that in our own local copy of Node.js if need be.
Can or cannot?
We can.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, yes, we can.
So are we potentially punting this to beyond the 1.00 release?
+1.
Because I know at least Isaac and probably Michael as well would have strong opinions on this.
Well, are they the ones programming it?
But Trevor, you're not, it's actually the most important for the people that are using it. So they're the ones that matter the most here. So having input from others, and there is a long thread on GitHub with this discussion that has got there's zero resolution on this.
Okay, well, I will admit I didn't read that thread, so for that reason I'm okay with punting on it. But I mean, if there's no resolution in that thread, then there won't be. I mean, that means it will eventually come back to us where we fight over it again and then vote and then decide.
But hopefully by that time you'll have read that thread and have some good arguments.
All I know is if we start going down this path, we will bring to the server the exact reason, one of the reasons I decided to leave web development on the client.
So what are you proposing, Trevor?
I'm proposing that just people know what they're coding for. Like, if you're going to use promises in your library, and if you're going to use the native promises implementation or whatever, then you know exactly, you have to know whether you need to require something or not, right?
Well, don't you just detect for the promise object in the global?
Yeah, but to do that with every...
I mean, I anticipate that NPM is going to fill up with tiny little helper libraries for people to map over the differences between these two, just like we have, ES6 shim, all these different libraries for the browser, and Modernizer, those sort of things, are going to pop up. It's just going to happen. And most of them use feature detection, which is what we're talking about here without having an explicit version number. Because you're actually talking about adding a user agent string, basically.
How do you check for things that are straight up invalid syntax in Node that won't be invalid syntax in IO.js?
Eval.
Oh, good. No. Under no circumstances is that better than doing a version check on an object property.
Well, actually, yes, because you don't always know. For example, with join node 011, you have a different feature set with dash harmony than you have without. So you still need to do feature detection because just version number detection doesn't tell you enough.
It's closer to the source of truth.
Yeah. I will accept the silence as an agreement.
No, you should treat it as disagreement, man. I think that's total bullshit. But like, I don't think we will find a resolution now. So,
I'd just like to point out that Dominic and I are in complete agreement on this. This is like a moment to celebrate for me. Okay, we're going to punt this, but it's not going to be added to 1.00 by the sound of it. There's going to be more discussion on GitHub. I'm just looking at the issue. The one I'm thinking of doesn't have all of the discussion that I thought was there. The issue number is 269, which is talking about features, the engine's property of package.json, all that sort of stuff. So that's the one I was thinking of, but I think that there's additional discussion somewhere else on process versions. I just can't recall where.
Oh, and just for the record, my sigh was because I had to run my application over 100,000 times in parallel execution in order to reproduce the race condition I'm looking for. And I finally managed to after 2 hours.
So you did find it?
Yeah, but now I need to inspect it and figure out what the crap's going on.
No.
Okay, the proposal is don't do anything for 1.0.0 with regard to your process versions property, and to have the discussion on GitHub. Is there any disagreement to that?
Yeah, I'll be fine with that.
That is like a 0 option. Yeah, okay, fine.
I'm okay with that.
But so, Rod, can you figure out where the discussion happened? Because I was just searching GitHub. Actually, I couldn't find it.
It's potentially either on a different repo or in IOC or somewhere else. So I will find either I will find a discussion or I will start a new issue and we will have this discussion there.
We'll have a good fight. Okay, good.
Okay, back to the checklist. Issue number 249, which was renamed Node to node.js. That's still open. I'm not sure. Is there anything else that we want to check off on that? I know at this stage we're being fairly light touch with the renaming. It's just the public-facing things. Is there anything else public-facing that we need to do renaming of?
Well, I don't think. Okay, have you landed all the new imagery in the repo?
No, I haven't. I was thinking about that last night. I probably should. If I have time today, I'll do a pull request with new imagery and icons and stuff.
No, that is actually a release blocker because the old stuff is full of the Joint logo and the Node.js logo. So, like, if we want to set us up for another CND, then we should release without. So
the way it's currently working is that on Jenkins, I have these copy jobs. So the assets are sitting on those servers, and they just get copied in to overwrite what's in there. So it works, and it will work repeatedly. But yeah, it's a deal. So I'll do a pull request for that.
Cool.
So that brings to another discussion, which probably we don't want to have here because I know it's going to be contentious. Which is that Michael has been out there stating that every version of iOS will have a new logo. And that's one of the reasons I didn't land the assets was because of that. So I chose. He got me to choose the logo for this first release, and he's under the assumption that we will be having new logos for each release, and that the person who becomes release master for that release will choose a logo for it. So that's why I didn't land the assets. I don't think we want to have the discussion here. We probably.
We can do it on the website, but I don't want it to happen in the repository, and I want to be able to actually build and not have like moving parts where the CI copies files over. So
yes,
I only have one vote, but like mine is 10,000 or something from me.
Yeah, I got that impression on GitHub already, and this is something that hasn't been discussed at TC. So Michael's pretty sure on this, and I'm not sure. I think it's just because opinions about logos haven't been expressed here because no one cares that much. So therefore, he's taken the incentive to decide that that's the way it's going to be. So that's a future discussion that will probably come up at the next release. So we can punt till then.
Okay.
Okay, just notes there. So,
are we going to give our releases code names?
Who cares? It's just 100. I was thinking that it'd be cool to come up with a code name, but if I was to do it, it would be something completely stupid. So I probably shouldn't be allowed to do that.
Okay, well, I'm open to suggestions. Let me hear it, Rob.
No, no. It's 7 a.m. here, and I best not be brainstorming. Okay. The last one is changelog. We don't have a changelog. There is a script to automatically generate one. Pretty terse, just commits. And we don't have anywhere that documents either the differences. Well, there's a wiki page on Joint Node for differences between 0.10 and 0.12. It's just that no one really updates that with much, it's sort of updated now and again, and it's not very complete, and it's just broad strokes and probably out of date. So there's nothing solid about the differences between 0.10 and 0.11, and then we don't have anything about what's different between 0.11 and what we've done in our JS repo. I think Michael's current implementation of the website was he said he was going to just link to the changelog, but we don't even have a complete changelog file. Do we just run that changelog script against the file and cross our fingers and publish that, or does one of us want to go ahead and make something more comprehensive? It'd be nice to have a more comprehensive document to share. This is the differences between what you've been using in 0.10 even if they're just really broad, but accurate enough. I did think that this is something I could do, but probably shouldn't put more on my load.
Would there be any value in splitting it up by module or subsystem so that multiple people can just tackle a subsystem, like it could cover what's different in streams, and Bert could, for example, cover what's different in child process, something like that?
Split up the work. Yeah, I think that could work. Yeah, the thing is, I mean, I don't mind writing it down, but I don't actually remember. It's 2 years. What did we do 1.5 years ago? I don't know.
You can always go through git log.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
You can always go do that. It's only a million commits.
So I'm gonna.
I'm not gonna volunteer to do everything, but and certainly there are certain parts like crypto where I just wouldn't know what changed. If there's subsystems like indeed child processes, FS maybe, I can do those parts.
So I've just put a link in the document to the Joint Node wiki page with the broad differences, but yeah, doesn't get updated much.
Maybe we can crowdsource the release notes. I see that the people in the IC channel are clamoring for since 0.10 changelog, so perhaps Dominic is willing to volunteer for at least part of the release notes. Perhaps a few others as well.
Yep, that's Dominic's for volunteering. Excellent.
Is he? Oh, shit.
No, he's not, but we're volunteering him. Waiting for
okay. That's nice. I always liked Dominic, but I like him even more now.
He can do it. Yeah. But that's the Contextify stuff. Okay.
That makes sense.
So okay, that's not a bad idea to break it up by module and have a thing to do since 0.10 changes. Do we want to do that work here, or is this even a 1.0.0 blocker? Is the first question.
Well, release notes are good for getting people for convincing people to actually start using your new version. They're kind of marketing, I suppose. So no, it's not a blocker per se, but it would be really good to have. And having said that, I don't have time to write them myself.
Okay, so I've got a bit of time ahead of me. How about I am volunteering myself here? I could come up with a list of things that need doing, whether it's by module or some other way, and then ask for people to volunteer to do bits of it.
That sounds good, because I could definitely handle the buffer and stuff like that.
Sounds good to me. I would volunteer to do streams.
That's a big job. 2 to 3 streams, 2 to 3.
It's not actually that big.
Just explaining it, I think, is the thing.
That's true. Yeah. Okay, I'll do child processes. I think I'm thinking of other things I might do.
If there's a ton of crypto stuff, Fedor should probably handle that.
Yeah.
Fedor, I have to start pronouncing his name right.
It is close to midnight. Maybe it is midnight for him now, and it's his birthday. So I'm not sure we'll get that much out of him. He's still here for that reason as well.
So my expectation would be that by the time this is all done, it will be tomorrow.
Well, it's already tomorrow for me. It's already the 14th for me, so I don't care either way. I can. It's the start of my day, and I've got a day ahead of me. It's how close we want to get to the 13th is the question. Okay, so we do need. We're agreeing here that we do need some kind of change log. We're going to divide the work up. I will propose a way forward on GitHub, and you guys have just started listing things that you're going to do. So maybe you should start on that. We'll make it. Let's make it like not detailed. Like these are the commit. You can link to commits. That's great. But not detailed in the sense of just dot points for every minor change, but more broad strokes for a user perspective. So as a user, I'm coming to this, what is different between what I'm on and what I've been used to on 0.10. So more prosy sort of stuff.
Should it be like a tutorial for the new features, or is it more, okay, we've added this, like, here's a link to the docs. We can't actually
I think that. No, let's not go tutorial. Let's not go overboard. It's more, this has been changed. If you want more information, here's more information, or go figure it out for yourself. So, just to highlight for people what has changed. That's all. Okay, and the work is not limited to TC, of course. Anybody else who wants to take that on board is welcome to, and I'll start an issue on that straight after this meeting to get that going. Okay, so anything else on the checklist we need to talk about before we are happy to go? No? Okay.
I don't really think, no. What is the CI fixed?
What was wrong with it?
Well, last night when I went to bed, or basically this morning, it was broken. Or something was broken.
That's right. You were fixing it. So that was the new test CI target. Something was wrong with parallelization of that. So we ended up backing out the add-ons part of that, and I've removed test CI from Jenkins completely. So it's now doing separate test simple and test messages. That's all CI is doing, and it's working. So there is an issue. I think Chris opened a pull request. That's probably more for discussion about how to fix this. It's to do with parallelization that it just breaks all over the place. but that's something that's not blocking 1.0.0. It just means that we don't have CI running for add-ons, which is unfortunate. But this is why we'll probably have a 1.0.1 anyway. And also, I think I don't think Nan is quite ready for IOJS release. It's probably mostly work, but Ben, I haven't been following that very closely because there's just been so much else going on. How close is Nan to being worthy for IOJS?
If Benjamin lands my pets, it should just work.
Okay.
Or you can land it. If someone lands the pets, it will work.
Okay, and we have to get a release out. Let's ask him to get a release out. That's a separate issue though. Okay. Nothing else for 1.0.0. Let's just get the work done. We have a website apparently. It's just got to be merged into master and then it'll go live. The dist directory will be created when I crank the handle. I will have ARM v7 builds going out. I will even try to get an ARM v6 build out, but no promises because I did have troubles with that earlier. But it'd be nice to have it, to drop a 1.0.0 with Raspberry Pi support. Aside from that, the only binary issue I anticipate is I don't know if people are going to complain that we don't have any 32-bit for Mac, because I don't know whether people use that or not. But we did decide to go just 64 for Mac, so that might be something that we get feedback on.
All right. I'm willing to give it a try.
Yeah. The other thing to mention, I don't know if anyone caught the discussion, but we also have most of our tarballs, except for the Mac ones, so Linux and Source tarballs, also we've got duplicates that are compressed with XZ, sorry. So instead of gzip, we've got xzip, which makes them really small. So we're not going to replace the gzip ones because I don't know how easy it is to do xz in Node for doing like Node JIP, but it's there anyway so that people can download much smaller tarballs if they need to. It'd be neat to move to that as the primary tarball over time. Okay, there's probably other things that are not coming to mind for me, but let's wrap it up there, unless anyone else wants to put anything else in.
I don't have anything.
So next meeting, we just go back to the normal Wednesday next week. Everyone happy with that?
Let's see. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Works for me as well.
Oh.
Cool. Thank you all very much. I'll see your additions to the changelog soon.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, thanks everyone, and thanks to everyone for watching and participating on IRC as well. So, goodbye, and we'll see you after 1.0.0.